because we picked, I'd say about maybe half in Guinea where I took off. We landed in Sierra Leone, and then a whole bunch more people came on the plane. That was concerned to me. And not
wait,
only did
hold on, wait. Can I stop you for a second? 1 second. So what you're saying is, before your flight came back to America, you stopped,
went to Sierra Leone.
And different people transferred in and on the plane?
That's correct. And this is the point I wanted to make, is that I was very concerned, because remember, I took my trip because I went there as a medical professional to observe and report. And I saw people coughing and sneezing and sniffling, and I'm like,
this is on the airplane you're talking about?
Yes. And I'm saying some of these people could actually be sick with Ebola.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, this airplane, after it landed in Sierra Leone and different people got on and off, then did you stop over anywhere else, or did you fly directly to the United States?
We stopped in Brussels.
All right.
Belgium.
And did people get on and off there also?
Yes. And myself included.
And was that
I had to transfer for a flight back to JFK.
So then you transferred onto a whole nother new airplane and then flew to JFK?
Correct.
And all those other people that was on that flight dispersed in whatever different aircraft that
Yep.
all over the world.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a very good plan for stopping Ebola.
No.
When you arrived at JFK,
so when I got to JFK,
yep.
There were 2 security officers waiting for me on the jetway before you even get to the terminal, to the gate. Before you even get to the gate into the terminal, 2 officers met me on the jetway and asked me politely to accompany them. And so I did. I knew what was going on. And they accompanied me back to the health office, manned by the CDC. And there, 2 doctors talked to me, screened me, and okayed me to be released and from their office, from their health office, into the custody of 2 Vermont officials who had come down from Vermont to...
okay, let me stop you right there again, if I can. Sorry to keep interrupting you.
Yeah, sure.
Now, these 2 doctors that did the screening on you, were they wearing protective gear?
Only one was wearing a shield, a plastic face shield, and maybe an apron, something like that, but not the full-blown thing. And the other doctor, nothing, just regular old, like if you went into a doctor's office and you met your family physician for an appointment.
And also, it would be safe to say that neither of the security people that met you were wearing safety equipment either?
They were not wearing anything other than their uniforms.
So in your medical opinion, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. In your medical opinion, hypothetically speaking, if you would have been infected with Ebola and able to transmit it, then they probably all would have got Ebola at that point, correct?
True. If I had Ebola, there was the potential that then they could have had it, would have gotten it.
So the plan, even at the airport, wasn't...
With the people who took me back to Vermont, same deal goes with them too. If I had it, then they potentially would have gotten it.
And that's a pretty shocking statement to say because, I actually lived in New York City at one point in my life, and I know what JFK Airport is. I know what kind of a hub it is. And so if there actually was a real... If there actually was a real case, then that would have been ground zero for a pandemic at that point, don't you think, in your own...
Exactly. Well, even on the airplane, if there had been a real case of Ebola on the flight that on either of the two flights that I was on, many people could have gotten sick, could have also contracted Ebola.
And the way the airports worked, and it just gets dispersed throughout the world very quickly.
Well, yes. Well, you saw what happened to that nurse that flew from Texas to Illinois, Chicago.
All right, now let's fast forward to the doctors released you, and exactly what authorities from Vermont did you meet next?
All right, they told me that there were two people there to pick me up and take me back to Vermont, and I said, oh, I was not totally surprised, but a little surprised that, that New York didn't hold me, and that there are two people that actually came, even though Vermont's not that far from New York City, that, that the state actually sent two people to pick me up. That was the sheriff, Stephen Bernard, and one of the public health nurses for Rutland County, and that's Joanne Calvi, C-A-L-V-I.
Okay.
They both were there, and just dressed normally.
And they didn't have protective gear on either, I'm assuming?
No protective gloves, nothing. Just totally like a person on the street, a person on the street.
Okay, so what did they, what conversation took place after you met with them?
Oh, they said they were dared to pick me up and take me back. The two security officers from JFK, New York, turned me over, walked me up to them. They turned me over. Then the other two said, we have a car waiting for you. We're going to take you back to Vermont, to Rutland.
So
we got in the car. So we went out. The car was parked curbside, not far from the exit door that we went out of, and we got in the car and started our journey.
So at that point, was it your understanding that you were being detained, or that this was a voluntary action on your part?
Voluntarily going with them, but I was being, but I knew I was being detained.
Okay.
But we didn't talk about quarantine. That word, we never. What was going to happen? In other words, when we first met, there was no talk about what the plan was, what they were going to do with me, where I was going exactly, what was going to happen to me. There was all the way to until we arrived at the roadway end. There was no talk. Even when we got pulled in the parking lot, there was no talk about it.
Well,
until I got out of the car, and then there was a door, one of the rooms at the motel that had a quarantine sign on it. Said, "This is where you're going to be staying."
Yeah, and it's kind of questionable. The whole strategy of quarantining people on a mandatory basis is kind of questionable, because if we really did have an Ebola outbreak, and now that people know that if you are suspected of possibly having Ebola, that you're going to end up in a mandatory medical quarantine, that is going to probably lead
people from saying anything.
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly what I told you. What's going on? That's what's happening with the people in West Africa.
Exactly.
Why they're not going to the hospital? But the news media has vilified me, and up and down they've trashed me, and they tell you that guy, this Rutland man, they don't I am a highly educated, intelligent medical professional. I worked hard for everything I've gotten, and I heard the fact that the CDC was admitting that, oh gosh, we made mistakes, saying things like, oh, there aren't going to be any other people affected because of Thomas Duncan, and then you got one nurse, not just one nurse, but you got two nurses, and then Obama getting upset and creating the Ebola czar, and the World Health Organization uh, uh, um, Secretary General saying that that they were so far behind that it's going to take them a while to get caught up. All these things I was already saying and doing in West Africa and reporting it back. Another thing that was disconcerting was I reported also in my reports was that so here we have these West African countries, 3 of them, and the borders are porous, especially the Guinea, Sierra Leone. I saw people crossing easily. There's no health screening. There's no health professional there screening these people. The only thing anybody did was one of the customs officials, what do you call them? The border officials shined a infrared thermometer at the forehead to see if they had a temperature or not, and then that allowed them to pass. I saw people putting money in with their passports that they would present at the border, and then they were allowed to pass.
Oh, yeah.
I saw 2 medical students, not doctors, not trained professionals, medical students, because they stated that's who they were, from Guinea, crossing over the border into Sierra Leone, and they said that their purpose was that they were going to Freetown to help with the Ebola patients there. And I'm like, what? These are just kids. These are medical students. Why would they be allowed to even do that?
So
why would somebody send them there? Why would somebody allow them to accept them there?
So in your opinion, then, there's definitely not a very well structured medical system in Africa.
Totally not. Totally not. And that's why it's out of control. And that's why they haven't. That's why the CDC. That's why we've had cases here in the United States. Not just one now, but several.